5 bogeys neutralized.
Fucking A. Copy that, Condor. Good work.
How's the vacation, Tex?
It was good. Except for that there aren't any beaches in the Florida Keys. I mean, that's weird, right?
That is weird.
Whoa. All right, we got one hostile left. Oh, shit. Condor, he's got Jenny.
What? My Jenny?
Yeah, man, we don't know any other mutual Jennies.
He's a fucking dead man. Getting into position now.
Attaboy. You're for sure gonna get laid, you save your lady. Fire when ready.
Copy that.
Come on, man. Come on, big dog, fire when ready.
I can't take the shot. I've got an obstruction.
What kind of obstruction?
A little plant. You know, like at a Japanese restaurant?
You mean a bonsai tree?
No, the one next to the checkout with the old waving golden cat.
Oh, you mean Lucky Bamboo?
Yeah, that's the one, that guy.
Can you get into another position?
Copy that.
Fire when ready.
Fuck.
What's happening?
Oh, it's dog shit.
Come again?
There's dog shit everywhere. Looks like peanut butter, but it smells exactly like dog shit. Oh my God.
Copy that. Doo-doo. Can you get into another position?
Yeah, Condor move. Ah!
What is it now?
Fucking needles.
Needles?
There's fucking needles everywhere.
Jesus.
Tex, I've never told you this, man. I'm super OCD.
Look, man, I'm sure you're fine.
Dude, I have fucking AIDS now. I know it.
Wow. I mean, statistically, probably not, but I mean, even if you did, it's 2021. It's super treatable now.
What the fuck am I gonna do?
Hey, man, you need to pull it together, okay? You're a professional, and Jenny's about to get her head blowed off, all right?
You're right. You're right. I have to save Jenny.
Good. Now pop up in a kneeling and shoot that dickhead in the face.
Tex, I never told you this before, but I only know how to shoot off a bipod.
What? How in the fuck do you only know how to shoot off a bipod? Taxpayers paid $11 million for your training.
I get it, all right? But I only ever learned how to shoot off a bipod or a VTAC wall. And technically, with inflation, my training now costs $12.2 million.
What about your sling?
What about my sling?
Use it.
I don't need to carry my gun right now. I need a reasonably stable shooting position to shoot this fucking guy.
Yeah, dipshit. Shooting slings are the OG shooting aid.
For real?
Yeah, put your arm through the loop, rest your elbow on something, and shoot. Oh, shit. No. No, no. No, 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 no. No. What the fuck? You just killed the janitor 3 floors up.
That wasn't the bad guy?
No, it wasn't the fucking bad guy. He had a mop.
Shit.
Yeah, shit. You're going to jail. And I got priors. Fuck, I gotta get out of here. I'm going to the Keys. I'm going to the Keys. I don't care if they got beaches or not. I'm gonna get a tan. They're gonna think I'm Cuban. Getting out of here. Whoa! You did not expect that shit, did you? Look at that. How unsettling that is. It's like falling through the ice on a frozen lake. Getting a letter from the IRS. You knew it could happen. You just didn't think it would. Please like and subscribe, because today we're talking about shooting slings. What are they and why are we talking about them? We're talking about them because they are the second most important thing that you can put on your rifle. It goes number 1, optic. Number 2, shooting sling. Number 3, bottle opener. Number 4, muzzle device. Number 5, trigger. Number 6, backup bottle opener. Didn't think about that, did you? Why are they important? Because they help you reduce your wobble zone when you're position shooting. This lets you have more accurate shots in smaller groups. Boom. That's it. In a nutshell, you can turn off the video now. More accurate shooting from a sling on your gun. 2 thumbs up. Slings help you carry your rifle. We all know that. Shooting slings help you carry your rifle and act as a shooting aid when you can't find a suitable rest. Should your rifle have a sling? Probably. If your rifle does have a sling, should it be a shooting sling? Absolutely. And if you're going to get a shooting sling, which you should, I'd suggest getting one made by Riflecraft. Riflecraft slings are made in the States. America! Stitched basically per order, and the guy who started the company did a shit ton of research, wrote a book about it, and then gave the book away for free. You can get it now. I'll probably roll in a download link somewhere. Visit rifle-craft.com to check out their shooting slings and use code Tinnitus at checkout to get 10% off your order. Check out the description below for links to the Riflecraft website and for the book. I have several of their slings. One of them going all the way back to 2015-ish, and they're great. This is how much I like these slings. If you were to give me a gun tomorrow for basically anything, but especially for hunting, the first thing I would do is put an optic on it. And the second thing I would do is put a Riflecraft sling. A perfect example of this is my CZ455. I bought it, immediately bought a Loophole 2-7 rimfire, and then right after that bought a Riflecraft RS2. And it's fucking awesome. All right, college boy. How do some gun suspenders make you shoot gooder? Simple. It greatly reduces or eliminates the need for some of these supporting muscles to stabilize your shot. Ta-da! That's it. That's basically how any rest works, right? If you think about it, like if you're putting a gun on a bench or some bags or off a backpack or the hood of a truck or a bipod or whatever, you're setting it down so that you no longer have to stabilize it with muscles. And the more muscles that you can take out of the equation, the steadier your shot's going to be. A sling does this because you run your sling from your front sling swivel, which is going to be in front of your support hand, to basically the underside of your armpit, highest part of the back of your tricep. And because you have a metric shit ton of tension right here, it pretty much eliminates the need for any of this to really do anything, right? It basically locks in. It's like a cable going from the front of your rifle stock to the back of your triceps. So none of this shit needs to do anything. You can basically let your support arm go completely limp. Like, check this out. I'll roll in some footage here in a second, but you have so much tension from that front sling swivel that it is jamming your rifle into your shoulder, and you don't really have to do anything with your support arm. Are there different types of shooting slings, you may be asking? Why, yes. Yes, there are. You have four main types. Number one, single point slings. Single point slings attach from a single point on your rifle and then loop around your body. By law, you're only legally allowed to operate one if you have an HK tucked underneath your suit coat. And then they're specifically designed so that whenever you drop whatever submachine gun you have to transition to pistol, it hits you directly in your balls. That's basically the purpose. It's almost like it's a joke, right? It's a joke sling that a guy invented to slap people in their balls repeatedly. Number two, 2-point slings. 2-point slings are the jam. Brondo has got what the plants need, and 2-point slings have what you need. Every sling I own is a 2-point sling. A 2-point sling goes from your front sling swivel to your rear sling swivel. You should buy a 2-point sling. Get one with a loop. That makes it a shooting sling, preferably one made by Riflecraft. Number three, 3-point slings. If you've ever wondered what it would be like to be caught by a commercial fishing trawler or to be spun into a spider's web, buy a 3-point sling. Actually, don't. Just buy a 2-point sling. And last but not least, the often overlooked and very misunderstood 4-point sling. They're designed to tether your front sling swivel to your left nipple and your rear sling swivel to your right nipple. They're typically found standard issue for European sex clubs. Hello, welcome to Himmel's Sex Club and Latex Emporium. Riflecraft has 3 sling offerings, the RS1, RS2, RS3. Keeping it simple. All of them are made out of nylon webbing, but all of this nylon webbing feels like cotton. They are super, super soft and extremely durable. Like I said, I've had that RS2 on my CZ455 for like 6 years, and it shows almost no wear. I would say it's softened up, but it was soft to begin with. So it's not like, oh, this is stiff webbing and it gets really soft. No, it's already soft. It feels great right out of the box.
Oh, that's nice. It's soft. Don't take a nap. Don't sleep.
All of their hardware is, at the time, I don't know if it still is the case, but at the time, all of their hardware was GroveTech. So GroveTech sling swivels. And those guys make really great hardware. If you don't know, I think it's also a US-based company. I want to say they're in the Pacific Northwest. So I've got some of their standard sling swivels and some of their little QD cups, and they're great. Super great hardware, super great sling. Go for it. So back to the types of slings, RS1, RS2, RS3. I'm actually gonna start with the RS2. So starting with the RS2, because that was the first sling I got, is what you would consider like a standard sling. I think they call it like a everyman sling, everyday sling, just a standard run-of-the-mill sling. It's fantastic. It's got a loop. I keep a loop keeper on mine. I've got the little swivel silencers, and it has been great. It is a super great sling, and I really like it, especially for bolt guns, something like hunting. The RS1 is like the RS2, but the difference being that it's got a couple of reinforcements at the bottom of the loop to kind of force it open a little bit. So if you unsling it from your shoulder, like if there isn't a bunch of tension on the sling and you unsling it, the loop kind of folds open. So it's easier to find the loop and get your arm through it. If you look at their website, it looks like it's super stiff and it's like, this real rigid opening. It's not really that rigid. Once you sling it over your shoulder or whatever, it collapses. So it's not like this giant thing that's always splayed open. So I actually really like it. Even though the RS1 is the most recent one that I have, it may be my favorite. So RS1 is basically like the RS2. It just is open a little more at the bottom whenever it's not under tension. Fantastic sling. I've got it set up the exact same way with a little loop keeper on there and some, I don't think I have silencers on that one. Anyway, the third one is the RS3. And the RS3 is the crossbody sling, and it's kind of more of the tactical-ish. So if you have an AR and you're going to carry something crossbody, so you've got your gun in front of you and the sling is slung around your body like that, that's typically what this would be used for. And one of the things that's unique about it is that it's got like a sling tightening system. So typically when you're using a loop sling, in order to get any aided shot placement, you have to put your arm through the loop and tighten it, and the loop is on the back side of your tricep. With this RS3, one of the things that Todd found out, and I've verified it, it works great, is that when you're going into kneeling, if you have the sling around your back and the rifle is slung and you drop into kneeling and you tighten the shit out of it, so there's a little pull cord, like a little paracord pull cord over here, and actually the paracord one may be the release. Anyway, there's a fucking strap that you grab and you cinch the shit out of it whenever you're going into kneeling, and what it does is it pulls a ton of tension because the sling goes from over this shoulder to under this shoulder, and so the sling is already kind of under your armpit where you'd want it to be in the beginning anyway. So you can actually get the benefit of a loop sling without actually having to loop your arm through it. So that RS3 is super helpful if you want to make a quick shot dropping into kneeling. And it's designed as a crossbody sling, which is super helpful for rifles. So if you're putting something on your AR or whatever tactical type rifle you have, get an RS3 and it's great. If you've got a bolt action rifle, RS1 or RS2, you can't go wrong. I mean, you could technically use any of them anywhere. The way that I've got mine currently set up, or bolt guns or anything else, you know, hunting-ish would be RS1 or 2, and any kind of quasi-tactical anything would be an RS3. Do that. Also, with the sling swivels, if your rifle has the provisions for the little QD cups, QD cups are fucking awesome. Those things are great. I really like them. Standard sling swivel studs work fine. There's nothing wrong with them, but I do really like the little QD cups. What's my experience with slings and when should you use them? Great question. Let's do it for instance. In a world where you're walking around, just for whatever reason you're walking around, you're hunting or whatever, and something pops out that you want to shoot. Let's just run through this list of questions. Can you shoot this thing where you want to confidently, offhand, immediately, with no support? I guess this is a really good time to get into it. Shooting slings only really help when you can put your support elbow on something. So if you're kneeling, you can put your support elbow on your knee. If you're sitting, you've got your support elbows. If you're like open leg sitting or cross leg sitting, you put your elbows down. Or if you're laying out prone, obviously your elbow is on the ground. That's when slings really help. Some people can shoot slings offhand. In the book, Todd didn't really see a whole lot of benefit. I personally haven't been able to do it. I know some people can, but typically what I'm talking about with sling shooting is going to be kneeling, sitting, prone. So any one of those positions. So you are walking around, something comes out offhand. Can you shoot it? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, do that. If the answer is no, then option 2 would be, is there a more stable shooting position and or rest that you can use immediately, that you're right on top of, that you've got time for? So the hood of a truck, or a fence post, or a brace up against the side of a tree, or do you have a bipod on your gun? Bipods are stable as shit. They're awesome. Drop down, assuming that you're on a perfectly manicured golf green and you can actually spall out on the ground, use a bipod. If you can't do any of those, so if you can't shoot it immediately offhand and you don't have a more stable shooting position readily available, the third option is use a shooting sling in the kneeling, sitting, or prone position. The closer you get to ground, the more stable your shot is going to be. So prone would be the most stable, then sitting, then kneeling being the least stable, but it's the reverse order for how quick it is to get into any of those. So it's easier to get into kneeling than it is into sitting. Actually, now that I think about it, it may go kneeling, then prone. Sitting may actually take the longest time to get into. Anyway, all that to say, the closer to ground you are, the more stable you are. Typically, the higher up you are, the quicker it is to get in that position. So it's just kind of a mental calculation of how stable do you need to be versus how much time do you have. We've been talking a lot about how shooting with a sling is going to stabilize your shot and you're going to shoot more accurately. So let's quantify that. How much better, you may ask, right? How much smaller is your group going to be? How much better are you going to shoot with a sling than without one? It's a fantastic question. And in order to answer that, I'm going to have to issue a disclaimer. I am not the best position shooter or sling shooter. It took a lot to say that. So I feel like I'm a better man for saying it, but it still hurts. It still hurts to say it. There are a ton of really good sling shooters out there. I mean, it's high power President's Cup across the course NRL 22, all that shit that I know very little about. I don't know anything about it. I just know that there are people who shoot from positions with slings that can do it very well. I'm not trying to teach you guys how to shoot best. I'm just trying to show you that if you don't have a shooting sling, you should get a shooting sling. In the book, Todd says that he shoots groups using a sling that are about half the size of groups from the same position not using a sling. I have also found that to be the case, and this isn't just me shooting one group. I'll roll in a whole shit ton of groups that I've shot. I also endeavored to get some footage through a scope with a little mount I made. That was a pain in the ass, and none of the footage came out very well. Suffice to say, I did some quantifiable research to find out how much, if any, my groups changed using a sling versus not using a sling. And what I found was that I was able to shrink my groups up to about 50% on the highest end, right? Like that was the best. Like if I could cut my group size in half, that was the best that I was doing. Typically what I saw was that I was really reducing group size by about 20 or 25%, but I was shooting the groups literally twice as fast. So if I had a 5-shot group with a 22 at 50 yards and it was, call it 1.5 inches, and it took me 30 seconds to shoot it, I could take the same amount of time and shoot a 3/4 inch group, or, and this is what I did much more often, is I would shoot a group that was about 1.25 inches versus 1.5 inches, but I would shoot it in 15 seconds instead of 30 seconds. Part of that's just because I'm impatient. I don't know if you guys have done a whole lot of unsupported position shooting for groups, but you've got a wobble zone, right? Your reticle is constantly doing this shit. I mean, it's going up and down with your breath, it's going up and down with your heartbeat, but it's also going side to side because you're trying to stabilize it, and it's all over. And if you are very patient and you've got good trigger control, you can squeeze shots off, especially if you can kind of guess where it's going to go and get fairly good groups. It just takes a while and it's kind of unpredictable, and it works for range stuff, but you don't want to be in that position when you're out trying to shoot a deer or whatever, right? You don't want to have to guess or hope that you're doing it properly and you're guessing exactly where the reticle is going to go. When you have a sling, the wobble zone constricts significantly, so the wobble zone is way smaller, and not only that, it's much more predictable of where the reticle is going. So I would just end up shooting a good group, but significantly faster because my wobble zone was smaller. As soon as it was quicker for it to get back where I wanted it to be, so I would squeeze another shot off. So if you are willing to be patient time-wise and take about the same amount of time to shoot groups, you can shrink it by about up to half. If you just want to shoot groups that are roughly the same size as unsupported or smaller, unsupported but not super small, you can do it about twice as fast. My dad used to shoot slings a lot. So he had, like, you know, the little frog loop keeper sling, on a Grand, and he had a bunch of other different kinds of slings, and I remember shooting his slings, and one thing I always remembered was that they were kind of a pain in the ass because they never really fit me, and we constantly had to adjust it and fiddle fuck with it, and I thought that slings were a pain. It's not that slings are a pain, it's that I was a kid and he was an adult, and so he had a sling set for him, and so we would have to adjust it if I was going to shoot one of his rifles. In reality, what you want is to kind of set it and forget it. So the best way to do that is find the sling that's right about the perfect tension when you're sitting. That's going to make it slightly tight when you're prone and slightly loose when you're kneeling. So it's just kind of a Goldilocks happy medium. It's good enough. And that way you never have to cinch up your sling. You never have to adjust it in the field. You can just loop up and shoot. And so once you find that the first time, you're good to go. All of my slings are set at basically the same length. The one thing I have not done is these slings ship with a bunch of excess webbing, right? They'd rather it be too long than too short, it's like fucking shoelaces or whatever, right? So you start out with a sling that has the potential of being extremely long. Set it to as long as you think that you might need it, right? And then cut the excess away. I have not cut the excess away because I keep on experimenting with stuff, but there's a lot of excess that I could cut. You guys may think that I'm shitting on bipods. I'm not shitting on bipods. Bipods are awesome. They're actually a super, super, super stable rest. And I think they make a ton of sense for a lot of people. But the thing about bipods, I know a lot of people are gonna be like, bipods are heavy. It's like swinging a goddamn truck axle. It's not that. It's not that bipods are heavy. It's that I've never found a real life situation where I can really use a bipod, and that's because I grew up in Texas, right? So whether I was hunting in East Texas, West Texas, or South Texas, you had these things to choose from that were always on the ground. Poison ivy, fire ants, rattlesnakes, thorns. That was the shit that was always on the ground, which is not a big deal. You can just choose not to lay down on top of a fucking fire ant mound or a rattlesnake, but the problem is that there's shit everywhere. There's bushes this high, there's little trees, there's shrubbery, there's stumps. There was never anything not in your way. And so a lot of times when I see people using bipods, they're out like, you know, plains shooting, or they're on like the side of a mountain shooting into a canyon. I never had that. It was always like, you know, marshy, bog, poison ivy, rattlesnake thicket. Like the longest open shot that you would have would be like 40 yards. Like if you're laying on the ground, that's not, no. I mean, you would need to be, I mean, I've shot way more shit off the hood of a truck than I ever would have been able to shoot laying on the ground on a bipod. So it's not that bipods aren't great. They're super great. I just personally have never been in the terrain where it made sense to have a bipod. You've heard me say sling shooting and position shooting almost interchangeably this, right? Because I mean, sling shooting is position shooting, but just using a sling. So the other part of that is that getting into position is actually really important. I don't have the best form, but getting into the position, getting the sling located as high up on your arm as you possibly can, getting the sling tight enough is also really important. And then the other thing is, like, I just used to do open leg shooting when I was sitting, and then I tried the crossed ankle shooting and actually helped a shitload, and I had never tried that before. So looking at some of the different positions within the discipline, like if you're doing sitting, are you doing like Indian style sitting? Are you doing open leg? Are you just crossing your ankles? Are you face directly towards the target? Are you canted 45 degrees? There's a bunch of different things. So play around and find out what feels most natural, what gives you the best groups, and that's something that's important. Is getting into the position itself is probably just as important as the sling. So get into the position correctly in practice so that you know how to get into the position correctly the first time and quickly. That's something you're going to need to spend time on. All right, first rule about position shooting. Loosen your belt because you got a fat fucking quarantine gut. You know, just unzip your pants too, because this shit's... Ugh.